I'm Will Cooper. I am with InfoWise, and I'm going to do a presentation today to look at doing form design in SharePoint, namely creating a SharePoint form quickly and easily. So I appreciate you guys joining for the presentation. I'm really excited about this. I really love this part of our tools, and I hope some of that rubs off on you today. So we'll go ahead and get into it. Just to kind of do some ground rules and background, that type of thing. I am a InfoWise developer and solutions builder, or I work on SharePoint related solutions. That's kind of my focus. My background is in Microsoft web development, and I've been using these Ultimate Forms tools for several years, and they're a big part of my success and the tools that I'm able to build for the customers that I work with. I really do love these tools just because we really strive to make things easy, and also that we're always updating and improving our tools. So it's a continuous process to provide new features and make things better. So I really like that aspect of it. Everything I'm showing you today, this is a part of a larger tool set, which is Ultimate Forms. Of course, this is a critical and core part of that, but our tools include workflow, reports, PDF output, charting,
Muted.
different
Unmuted.
all kinds of different capabilities. So in any case, we'll go ahead and get into it. I do want to mention at the end, we're going to be doing a drawing for a shirt. That is for attendees that are located in the United States. We do need to have that restriction just for shipping reasons. We'll do a drawing for that at the end. All right, so let's talk just a little bit about our goals before we launch right into the presentation. These are just kind of some general principles and goals for building forms in SharePoint, regardless of which tools you're going to use. So here's a comparison. I want to talk a little bit about what comes out of the box from Microsoft, specifically for the Office 365 platform, and that is the Power Apps tools. SharePoint Online generally is the connection for that, and many versions of on-premise you can't tap into Power Apps. Generally speaking, from my experience, there's a steep learning curve and it's a long building process putting together forms in Power Apps. It can be a powerful tool set, but it's technical and time consuming. And in building your forms, it is in a separate platform, so you go outside of SharePoint to do this. In terms of configuration and things like that, there's many different configuration settings. It certainly can be overwhelming, especially when you first start using those tools. Generally speaking, it's very intricate in terms of the configuration, layouts, layers, fields, containers, all of those type of things. There's quite a lot going on. And then with the fields that you actually use in your form, there's some limitations to that. You may find there's some things that you want to do that don't come out of the box. You maybe have to kind of put it together yourself, or maybe even find some kind of workaround. And this tool set isn't necessarily inherently designed for, say, your SharePoint desktop users. It's really geared in many ways for things such as a phone app and a mobile interface, and not necessarily with the desktop user in mind, so just one consideration. And then in terms of doing things quickly, generally speaking, there's not what I would call fast track building where you can do something really fast. There are some example templates and things like that, but again, it's generally a long and drawn out process. So just to talk a little bit about what I will soon show you, with our form design tool, it's important to know everything I show you works fully in all versions of SharePoint for online and on-prem, with the exception of some very old legacy versions of SharePoint, which is probably not applicable to most or any of the folks on our call today. In terms of starting to work with this, you can begin building immediately. There's no ramp up in terms of learning or anything like that. You can just jump right in. You'll see that today. Everything happens fast. You build directly in the SharePoint interface. You don't go off into any other tool set or anything like that. All the configuration you'll see that I'm going to do today is very simple. There's no coding to be done. The layouts in our form designer tool are simple container-based layouts, so watch for that today. I'm going to be using containers. And it is easy to use all of our regular SharePoint fields, especially for those of you who have used SharePoint for a while. All of those fields are included. Plus, additionally, we provide some really neat extra fields that stack right on top. This works great for your desktop SharePoint users, but also it does use a responsive design, so it adapts and works well also for a mobile interface. And then in terms of the term that I had used, fast track builds, there are easy options provided in the interface so that in the case you just want to do a form very fast, you can go for some of those default options. So I'll show that in our presentation. So just practical form building principles. This would be true regardless of which tool set you're going to use. MVP, minimum viable product. We want to get a new form up fast and easy. We want to have something to look at, something tangible as quickly as we can, and then through adjustments and iterations, we want to adjust from that. We want to move quickly, and we want to get the basic form up fast. That's our priority. We want to use basic layouts. We don't want to get into a lot of complexity and things like that. Generally, we'd like our settings and setup to be in bite-sized pieces. And then what we want to do as we're building is test out our user interface of the form. So as we start building it, we want to try doing a new record, for example, and see what that's going to look like, make updates, see how it changes as we're doing our form design. And then also create some dummy records early in the process just to practice with our data, make sure the user interface does what we want and looks the way that we want it to look. So this is kind of a visual representation of how I think of things. I do feel like the out-of-the-box tools are quite difficult and time-consuming to deal with and a bit painful. So I'm hoping after today, if you're not already working with these, that you'll be exploring this, because I really, truly believe our tool set and options give you that easy path that I hope you guys will take advantage of. This, again, I want to emphasize it's available both for Office 365 and also for on-premise. Everything I'm going to show you today is applicable to both. The environment we're going to be using today is in SharePoint Online. This is a process in terms of doing forms. Generally, the way things work is you work in your canvas and modify your form design, publish out your changes, and then you want to be in your interface and create dummy records and test and just confirm and make sure your interface works the way you want. So you're going through this cycle iteratively, easy for me to say, and that's our form building process that we want to follow. So let's jump to it. Let's get out of this boring PowerPoint deck and let's get right into SharePoint and let's go through the process. Now, the fun part about what I'm going to do today is instead of kind of having all the magic set up in advance and that type of thing, I'm actually going to build from scratch because I really do want to demonstrate just how fast and how easy it is to create from scratch. Notice especially also that when I create the fields, I'm going to do it right from the tool set. So we're going to literally walk through from the very most basic step to building up our fully featured form. Okay, so the first thing I'm going to do is just create a regular plain vanilla custom SharePoint list. For the sake of our demo today, I'm going to call this projects. So nothing special at this point. So there's our projects list. That was fast. One thing I should comment, in order for me to do these things, I have the InfoWise Ultimate Forms app installed on my site. I will talk later in the presentation about how you get that, try that out. Certainly installing the trial of our software is the very most important thing that you can do after this demonstration. Okay, since that is there, that means in my new projects list, I can jump right to our tools. So once that's installed, you get a new option in your ribbon toolbar, which is the design option. It's a little puzzle pieces icon. And when I click on that, it's going to go ahead and take me where I want to go. All right, 1 second. I just want to make sure I have multiple tabs. Okay. All right, so I'm in the InfoWise Settings Hub. That's the screen you see here. You can think of this as a giant box of all kinds of awesome tools and capabilities added to your SharePoint environment, things that don't already exist. So it really turns your SharePoint environment into a powerhouse in terms of tools and capabilities. And I can get here with one click. Our focus today is on forms. So I'm going to go directly into Form Designer. It asks me if it wants to generate a default form. I'm not going to do that. I'm just going to start from scratch, and we're just going to build this right up. All right, so we're in the form builder. Nothing yet to look at. We're building from scratch. And first thing I'm going to do, in most cases in forms, I want to use tab controls. This isn't a concept or anything provided in Power Apps or SharePoint or anything like that. Nevertheless, this is a valuable approach, and generally it's a nice way to break up your form. So I have a tab control at the top, and then what I'm going to do is click in here, and I'll just make a few tabs. And as I go through all these steps, I want you to notice that everything is just simple text boxes and drop-down menus, and that I don't have to do any programming or code along the way. All right, so I'm going to make 3 tabs for my projects list. This is going to be a project tracking tool. So I'm going to say project, and then I'll have a second tab, which I'm going to call progress. And then I want a third tab, and this will hold the document attachments. Notice as I'm making these updates, it's giving me a preview and showing me real time in the interface. It's immediate. So I don't have to wait to publish or save out settings to find out what's going to happen. I know immediately as I'm working along. So that's a very nice capability. Okay, so we got our 3 tabs, and then in each tab, I'm going to use this container control. This is an important and fundamental part about the building process, and this lets me control my layouts and do some formatting and things like that. Everything's kind of gray at first, so it's going to be hard to see what I'm doing, but I can promise you as I work my way along, you're going to quickly see how that all works. So hang with me for a second on that. Another thing that we like is just our standard buttons at the bottom. I shouldn't say standard because these can be customized. It's different from the out-of-the-box SharePoint button. So to take advantage of that, I'm going to drag a button bar right onto the interface. And this will just be buttons that show up on the bottom part of my form. What's cool about these is I can change the labels, I can change the styling, I can put whatever I want. Which is obviously not normally a part of what you could do with the SharePoint form. Okay, so there's my button bar. And then just to get things kicked off, I'm going to take my title field that comes with every SharePoint list. I'm going to drag that on there. And I'm going to go ahead and change the title field to have a different label. So I need to click on that. Context is important. See that blue box around that? Now I have some settings, which are all the configuration settings of everything I can do to that control, which is the title field. So I want to call this project instead of title. Again, notice it immediately updates and changes in the user interface, which is great. That's exactly what I want to happen. What I also would like is I'm going to use the standard attachments field in SharePoint. In terms of the functionality, it's standard. In terms of UI, it's going to look a lot different. So you notice I have this really nice looking drag and drop interface. All I had to do is just drag the control right on there, and that's all it takes just to get that started. Now, even before I create some fields, I'm just going to do some basic styling on these containers for each of the tabs. So I'm going to go ahead and do that real quick. So what I'm going to do is click on this container, and I'm just going to add a little style configuration just to make things look a bit nicer and dress it up a little bit. And specifically what I want to do is put in a little bit of padding, put a border and background in here. So I'm just going to say container style, and then I'm going to come here to the background color. Whoops. Copying and paste from somewhere else. I want like a light blue. I've already kind of picked out a color for that. So I'm going to do that. And then for this, I want to have a black border. There's black. And I'm going to do solid, 1 pixel border. And the other thing I mentioned is padding. So there's padding. And I'm just going to put a little padding on this. And it's going to make sense to you pretty quickly what that's going to do. Notice that I've got that immediately after I apply the settings. So that was really quick. You can see how you could really tweak the look and feel of things very quickly. I'm just going to rinse and repeat for each of my containers because I want to have that same consistent look. So we'll do container styles again. And background color. There's the blue again, black border. 1 pixel solid. And then we're going to do our padding again. There's padding. Save. Okay, there's the container for the second tab. And then I'm just going to do it one more time for my documents. I meant to say documents. I'll fix that in a second. Same thing. Background. Border. I should mention, I didn't say at the beginning, but if you guys have questions as we go along, please do use the questions interface in the chat. I do have team members along with me on the call. They're going to be happy to address those questions. And also later in the presentation, I'll stop to address some of those myself. So if you do have questions as I'm going along, please let us hear from you. Okay, we need padding. And I'm just doing the same thing on each of those containers. Updates real time. Okay, so I took care of that. So I'm just kind of doing some basic prep work to get ready. I should comment that it's good to publish often. In the upper left in the interface, I have a publish button, and I can just click on that. It just publishes out the changes. You can do that anytime, or you can also save drafts. I'm just going to do publish during the presentation today. You can also use CSS if you want to. Just as a demonstration of that, normally this isn't necessary, but I want to do kind of something special for the tab. So I've got a little snippet that I'm going to put in there. Again, normally you don't have to do this stuff, but I'm doing it because I want to have like a yellow background on my tabs and stuff like that. It's just a fast way for me to do things. So that's an alternative approach to styling. All right. So next thing I'm going to do, I'm on my project tab. I'm going to actually start creating fields. Now this is very cool. Normally in SharePoint, you'd have to go into the very boring list settings screen, create fields in SharePoint. Not the best experience and completely disconnected from your layout process. In our tool, I don't have to leave the screen. I can actually create the SharePoint columns directly from the interface, and it lets me build so much more quickly. So that's exactly what I'm going to do today. So I've got some fields that I want to add to my project tab, and right from this interface, I'm going to start creating those fields. So we're going to start with a people picker field, and I'm going to call this project manager. I'll say that's required, and can save that, and it just shows up in this left interface immediately. So this is no different than if I had created this field in the list setting screens in SharePoint. But again, the advantage here is I can do this design and field building all in one consolidated interface, which just speeds up the whole process dramatically. And once I have the field, all I have to do is just drag it right out onto the canvas. So there's our first one. Now I'll just keep rolling and creating more fields. So I want to have another field for project team. I'll go ahead and do that now. This one I want to allow multiple values, and I'll save that. And right now I'm just kind of in field building mode, but I'll start to do some layout things too as I'm adding these to the interface. But mainly I'm kind of focused on content right this second. Okay, we also want to have a project start date and a project end date. So I'll go ahead and create fields for that. Okay, project start. And we'll say default value for today. Don't need the time or anything like that. We'll make that one required. Just drag it right out there. We also like to have a project end, so similar kind of field. So just pick date, time. Okay, I'm not going to require that one, no defaults for that, so I'll just create that, drag that out there. In this case, I kind of like to have those sit right next to each other side by side, so I'll go ahead and use another container. Notice as I'm doing it's all drag and drop, which is just really cool. I just drag it out of the interface, it shows me where it's going to go, and then I can put in multi-column. See, on the container, I can have up to 4 columns. So I'm going to say that's a 2-column container, and then just drag and drop into the container. And you can see everything just adjusts automatically. I don't have to fiddle around with tweaking of the width or any of that type of thing. So it's quite fast and easy to deal with. All right, next one I'm going to do is I'm going to do some currency fields. I'm going to do project budget. Go ahead and create that. That's going to be currency. No default value, I'll say 2 decimal places, and we'll say required. I guess I'll do 0 for the default, why not? Just shows up right away on the left. I just drag it down. I also want to do one for additional spending. So new column, currency, additional spending. Default value 0, 2 decimal places. That one I will not require. It's created, and I just drag it down. And then I want to do something kind of special. I want to have a project total. I want to automatically total those 2 fields together. So I can do something kind of cool for that. So I will make another currency field, call it project total, and no defaults or anything, but I do want to make that 2 decimal places. I'll save that, drag it out into the interface. Okay, now those are all kind of 3 related. I'm going to do similar to what I did before. I'm going to put those in a container and have them go side by side. So I just drag another container into the form. I've got 3 fields I want to put in there, so say 3 columns. Notice I just have to click on the field to give it focus, and then I get this 4-way arrow, and I just drag it in. Notice it's automatically divided up into 3 columns for me. And then once those are in there, I can kind of go on to my next step. All right, let's put a background color and some padding on this. Let's kind of make that container look a little different, just for styling. Okay, so we'll say budget styles. Okay, so I'll just kind of arbitrarily pick some kind of different color here. All right, that looks good. And then, I also need some padding. So padding's always good just to kind of space things out a little bit. Notice it just changes immediately, so I don't have to guess about any of this. I can see exactly what's going to happen. Okay, the next thing I want to do is set a role, and I want to make this auto total. So what I'm going to do is click into this project total field, and I'm going to create a role. And this is part of the InfoWise Ultimate Forms functionality. So I just go into roles, I click new role, and I'll say this is a role to be project, budget plus additional spending. That's just my label for the role. And then I come in here, I'm going to going to do that. So it's project budget plus additional spending. I just hit save. I want that to happen on new and edit. Save that. The other thing is I don't need the user to do anything, right? It's automatically totaling, and therefore I want to make that read only. So this is a really awesome aspect of these forms is I can dynamically configure the interface at a field level. So I'm just going to say this is a read only field. All I have to do to make that happen is just click read, save, and it just applies the setting on the interface. Okay. So we've applied those rules. Now I'm starting to kind of do some stuff and it really coming to a point where I need to have dummy records. Recall at the beginning of the presentation, I talked about that being an important part of the process. So I've kind of gotten far enough along that I need to do that. I need to create that dummy record and I need to start seeing what it's going to look like when you actually use the form. All right, so I'm in my projects form and I'll just do a new record. There you go. Okay, so this is important. I can kind of bounce back and forth. Notice I've got my design interface over here. This is a typical way that I like to work when I'm working on forms. I just toggle between those two tabs. So we'll say Apple's project, put in my name. Notice the kind of nice polished UI. This isn't just kind of like your standard out of the box. There's a lot of extra polish and things that are there for you automatically. I'll put a couple of team members on here. Let's put Ethan and Vladi on. And then we need to have a project start date. So go ahead and put that in. Project end will come later. And hopefully our auto totals will work on the field. Notice that's required, so it's angry with me. And check out my project total. Just immediately, without even a form save, it will automatically dynamically update. So that's pretty cool. I've got that happening for me automatically. Might as well go ahead and add a document just to see what that looks like. Just drag an image onto it and I can just click submit. Remember I changed the text on that, but it's still just the standard SharePoint save form. So I'll go ahead and click that and let it save. Okay, so we've got a dummy record. So I can kind of keep bouncing back and forth now just to check my updates and make sure it looks the way I want and I'm staying right on track. So I'm still right here in the form building process. At this point, we can kind of go on to our second tab and we'll make some more kinds of fields. I just click on my progress tab and I want to keep making columns. Okay, so this one I want to do kind of a special field provided with Ultimate Forms. It's called the color choice field. And color choice is just the same as a SharePoint choice field, except that it has some more options, which are really neat. Okay, so I'm going to make a field called status, and I'm going to say it's required, and I'm going to do some icons with it. So just like a regular choice field, I just need to put in my options. And I have some ideas about what I want to do for that. So we'll have planning. I'll do gray arrow. And then here, I'll put all my options in first. Kickoff. Here, we'll do that. And then we'll have phase one. And I know some ones that I want to use for that. There's 250 icons you can use, or you can even load in your own icon set and reference by URL. So that's a really cool thing. Just dresses up the interface. It makes things look a lot nicer. Phase two. Go in here. And then phase three. Do one more of these number ones. And then we'll just do complete for the last one. And we'll make that like a green bubble. Okay, that's everything I need to do. We'll say we want that to default to planning a new record. So I've got my status just like before. I drag that in. Notice I'm in my progress tab now. That's highlighted. And in here, I can do this. I can just make a rule and say default value. I can say default to planning. and just type that here. And it works just the way you would think. When I create a new record, that'll just default to that value for me. Let's go ahead and do a progress bar. So I'll show you something cool that you can do with another InfoWise field. So let's start by adding a field called %complete. This will be numeric. So I'm going to do a number first, and I'll call it %complete. This will be how far along the progress is in terms of completion. We'll default to 0. We'll have 0 decimal places with a minimum of 0 and a maximum of 100. It's in 100%. And I'll save that. And then I'm going to add the progress bar, which is an InfoWise indicator control. So that's our next one. So this is one of those additional extra fields you get with the tool set. So if I go in here, you'll notice there's this indicator, which is not included in SharePoint. It's part of Ultimate Forms. I'm going to call this field progress. There's different kinds. The one I'm going to use is the progress bar, and it just asks you which column it's looking at. So I'm using %complete, and I just tell it the start and end values, which is 0 to 100%, and save. That's all there is to it. And this is cool. It just makes like a green bar. Now, it shows 50% full, but this will actually tie to %complete. You'll see that in just a second. I'll do another 2 column setup of the container, just like we did before, just to kind of make things look nice. So I'm going to have a 2 column container and just drag and drop that in. There you go. All right, let's see. And then the next thing we want to do is project notes. I'll just do like a multi-line text field. This would be just like a catch-all text field. So I can do multi-line. I'll call that project notes. 6 lines, that's fine. Let it be rich text. That needs lots of room, so we'll let that stretch out. And then we'll do some checkboxes now and stick those in a container. So we'll do like phase 1, 2, and 3 complete. So I'll do some yes, no fields for that. That'll be quick. So I'll do phase 1 complete. I'll copy that so I can move faster. And then this is a yes, no, defaulting to no. I'll just make those columns all together real quick. Yes, no. Phase 2. And one more of those. Defaulting to no. All right, let's drag those on there real quick. Phase 1, phase 2. Phase 3. Okay, you want a container for those. They're just little checkboxes. So we'll put that right there. Make that 3 column. Drag them in. There you go. Notice there's a little blue bar that shows up. It kind of highlights where it's going to be, so you get a preview before it drops it in there. Okay, so we got those all 3 next to each other. Let's do something a little different. Let's add a header control in here to give some instruction for the user. So I'm going to use one of these other controls on the side, and I want to put that above those checkboxes, and I'm going to kind of do some stuff in there. So I want this to be just some text and instruction. So I got to replace sample heading. That's not what I wanted to say. Say project checklist. Then I can do some things in the theme. I can do high contrast. So I kind of want this to stand out. And I can do an icon. So let's do the pencil icon. The callout's like a little help bubble that'll show up. So in my case, I want to put in a little extra instruction for the user. I really believe in this approach, kind of adding some baked-in instruction to help the user know exactly what to do. Let's go ahead and publish this because I don't want to get too far ahead of things. I want to make sure I do what I said, which is to check your results and updates frequently. Let's go into our Apples project. I had mentioned, I do want to say at the end of today, we'll have this template published out. You can actually download and install this as a solution directly from our interface. So you can actually look at the exact form and control that I'm setting up later today. Okay, so there you can see the those. Let's do 50% complete. And this will actually just keep stretching out automatically depending on how much information you put in there. Here's what the help callout does. So when I click that little bubble, it'll give me more information. And, of course, I have a sentence there, but you could really put just about anything that you want. Okay, so everything looks good. And you see the progress bar. That's what that's all about. So it shows the little progress bar right in the UI. If I go in the view version of the form, you can see what that looks like there. So you can see as you're doing this, you know, it's easy to make tweaks based on what you see. If there's colors that you want to adjust or tweak or anything like that. All right, we're moving right along. Okay, let's do another one. There's a control called the signature field. Again, this is an ultimate forms field, which lets you actually do a handwritten signature. We'll do a field called project sign off, and this is going to be signature. And this can be tied to another field if you want, or you can skip it, you know, however you want to do it. There, I'll do title handwritten. I'll show it expanded. Save that. We'll make that the bottom of our progress. There it is, project sign off. And we'll test that control out here in just a second. Let's go ahead and do one other thing that I want to do an image control. So I'm going to go in the Documents tab. If you did want to include a picture, maybe like a diagram or something like that, it's really easy to do. I'm just going to use this image control, and this is a pretty simple one to use. What you would do is just load the asset directly in your site. I've already got one in the site assets directory, and just drop an image and line into your form. So you can put in snippets and headers and images all around your fields any way that you want. All right, let's go ahead and publish that. Let's see how that signature field looks. Edit that. There's the signature at the bottom. Okay, so all I got to do for that, this is the handwritten one. You can do one with the checkbox. There's different configuration options. For the sake of my demo, I'll just do that. And then the document tab, notice that it's got the name of the file I uploaded earlier, and then it's also got an image in there. So hopefully you can tell that I have complete control over this layout in terms of the look and feel, the padding, the borders, tab styles, really anything that I want, and I didn't have to do any fancy programming. I was able to get through that quickly. We go ahead and submit that. All right, that's how the signature field works. Notice it records the date, time stamp, and it automatically records the name of the person who did that sign off. So that's a pretty cool feature and functionality. Should say there's quite a lot of additional functionality here. The purpose of this demonstration really was to show how fast and easily you can set up your basic form. You can get complicated and very sophisticated with this. In the field controls, you can do custom validation. You can conditionally make fields show or be hidden in the interface. There's all kinds of extra functionality to this. You can work with different themes, apply scripting. You can even use a function that was released in this last week where you can actually publish this as an external form, which is fantastic because normally that's not the case. Normally you'd have to be an authenticated Office 365 user. If you wanted to do a survey for your customers, for example, or something like that, you could use this external form option. If I click on that, it will provide a URL. You can make that available publicly. They don't have to log in or anything. They can just fill out a form, answer your questions, and your data will come right back to SharePoint. It's really remarkable how many functions and features are here. So although everything I showed today I think is very cool and awesome, there's so much more to it. And with practice and training and doing some forms, you can just keep digging deeper and doing a whole lot more for it. And of course, I also want to emphasize once again, our form designer is really just only one aspect of the larger toolbox. We provide a very nice interface for workflow and our actions interface. We provide import capabilities, custom PDF templates and layouts, and all kinds of extra features that I didn't delve into today, but of course that is explained on our website. So let me say one other thing, and then we'll get to our shirt drawing. I mentioned earlier in the presentation, the most important and critical thing that you can do after our presentation is to install our trial software. That's free. It is the full entire software available to you for 30 days for you to evaluate, and you can do everything that I demonstrated today. Alternatively, you could also use our request a demo option if you'd like to have a one-on-one meeting with one of our InfoWise reps where we can talk more specifically about your business, organization, and your specific project needs. To install the trial, it's simple. You click on Quick Start, and once you go in there, you just follow these step-by-step instructions, more specifically the installation area. If you were doing SharePoint Online, you click on that, or vice versa, and you just walk through and read the instructions. If you should have any difficulty with the installation of the trial, please reach out. We're very happy and ready to assist with that. So that's very critical. And that's really the main presentation I wanted to give. So let's go ahead and let you guys do the opportunity for the shirt drawing. What I'm going to do is go ahead and ask you to do a number. So in the questions interface, I'm going to pop that out. Go ahead and pick a number from 1 to 100. Guess once only, please. And I'm going to pick a winner in about 15 seconds. Whoever gets closest. One guess only, please. Five, four, three, two, one. Okay, we've got a winner. And let's see, I think I'm saying that's right, Desiree. If you can, please go ahead and send me an email with your address and shirt size. You can send that email to me at willc@infowisesolutions.com. Congratulations. We'll send you an embroidered polo shirt with the InfoWise design, so that'll be cool. And I am done with my main part of the presentation. I am going to stay on to help answer questions and that type of thing, but we're done as far as the main presentation. So thank you very much for joining. I hope this was interesting to you, and if you don't already have our tools, I hope you will soon have your trial installed and that you can try out all the things that I showed in the demonstration. I will have this presentation uploaded to YouTube later today. And I also will have this saved as a template, which you can install and try out from our Ultimate Form screen. It will be showing under the Business Solutions tab at the top of the screen. So thanks very much for your time. If you do have questions, please stay and hang out in the chat, and we will try to answer your questions before we end our session. Thank you again.